Do I train the same way that I used to when I was younger? Yes and no. So I started weight training when I was 14 years old, and now I'm getting into my 60s. So I've been doing this for decades, and it's one of the things that I really enjoy doing and I want to keep doing. But the thing is, I can't work out the way I used to, so I need to make a lot of modifications. So as I've moved into my 60s, these are some of the things that I've needed to modify in order for me to be able to continue strength training well into my later years. Of course, what works for me might not work for everybody. So these are the things that I've implemented in my life. But before you make any changes to your training, or if you've never worked out, make sure you check with your doctor to see if you're healthy enough to take on this type of training. So the main thing is my goals are different. When I was younger, I used to just train to get bigger and stronger, and that was it. Now I'm thinking about longevity and how I could keep my body strong and keep as much muscle as possible so that I could just stay active for as long as possible. Also, besides strength and trying to maintain as much muscle as I can as I get older, I think about other things. I think about flexibility, mobility, cardiovascular health. So these things have now become a part of my regimen on a regular basis. Next, the weight amounts are less. I just cannot use the same amount of weights that I used to use when I was younger. It sucks, yeah, but I just keep the ego at the door. I use whatever poundage I can on the bar that keeps me in good form and helps me work the muscles as best as I can. Also, I need longer warm-ups. When I was younger, I would get a light weight on the bar, do like one set of maybe 15 reps, and then boom, I was loading the bar up with much heavier weights and getting into my working sets. Now, I can't do that. I go into the gym, my muscles are stiffer, they take longer to loosen up. I might need 2-3 warm-up sets at high repetitions before I really feel that I could start increasing the weights. It just requires a little more time for me to get going and get my body ready to do the workout. So I also found that I need more rest between workouts. When I was younger, I used to train so many more days in the week. Now I find that a lot of times if I come to the gym and I push myself, it takes longer for my body to recuperate. So I need to keep additional days of rest in between and really listen to my body. So I'm very protective of making sure that there are at least a couple of days a week where I am not really doing any type of training to make sure that my body's recuperated. I generally plan these buffer days. So I'll have the day that I plan to work out. And then if I still feel like really like my body's not ready, I'll just give myself an extra day and then do it on the next day. So my exercises are pretty much the same. When I was younger, I used to do a lot of compound movements, the multi-joint exercises like the bench press, the squat, the deadlift, lunges, pull downs, rows, those kind of movements. I am hitting my whole body like I did back then. I'm using generally the same motions and the movements. I don't get fancy with stuff that I see online. I stick to the basics. That's always worked for me. So also when I was younger, I used to always focus on the free weights. So as I've gotten older, I'm still doing barbells, dumbbells. That's a good chunk of it. But I have mixed in machines, cables, more of that. I've been doing this for decades. I need some variety. I got to mix stuff in. Plus, there are certain exercises that I avoid. I just can't do them anymore. They mess up my back or they strain me in a certain way. So I've either found a variation that works for me or I've changed it up with something else. So the important thing is when it comes to exercises is always make sure that you're listening to your body. So if you're doing a movement or a machine or a cable movement, anything, and you're feeling strain or joint pain, things like that, that exercise might not be for you anymore. You might need to change it up with a different variation or a different type of movement. All my exercises are done in good form, and they're all done in a way where I'm controlling the weight properly. Like I'm not really using any momentum. And I know when I was younger, I used to use some momentum in my movements. Not a lot. I've always trained fairly controlled, but now that I'm older, I really just make sure that I'm not throwing weights around and using weights that are too heavy where I feel like I need to heave them up. So that's been more of a focus as I've gotten older, is just make sure that I'm finding the appropriate weight and not get into how much weight I'm using, but think about more along the lines of how I'm using the weight to work the muscle as best as I can. So now that I'm older, I find that my repetition ranges are higher. When I was younger, I was probably in like 3 to 10 rep range, like most of the time, like 6 to 10. And then when I was feeling really good, I'd push some sets to like 4 reps, 3 reps, sometimes throw in a personal best, a maximum 1 repetition set. I really don't do that anymore because it's not about the weight. It's more about using the proper weight in order for me to train my muscles as best as I can. So my rep ranges are probably more in like the 7 or 8 rep range to like 15. But on days when I feel good, when I come into the gym and I feel strong, then I will definitely go a little heavier. I might hit 5 reps, 6 reps on, one of my sets and just really push myself. Other days when I feel tired or I'm not feeling as strong or the weights feel a little bit heavier that day, I'll back off and I'll keep the rep ranges higher, like 10 to 15. Another thing that I'm doing now that I used to do back then is I still train to failure, meaning I'm going to my maximum effort with a weight. I'm trying to find a weight in my repetition range that will challenge me enough where that last rep, I can't complete it. Now, I don't train to failure all the time. I find that I do it on the days when I'm feeling really good, really strong. I push the weights up a little higher, and then I'll push my body a little bit more because I feel my joints are warmed up and the weights feel good. So those are the days I tend to push myself. But again, going back to what I said before about listening to your body, on the days that I am stiffer or a little bit tired, I'll back off and I won't go to failure on those days. On those days, I'm going to the point where I'm still pushing myself, but I'm kind of leaving 1 or 2 repetitions on the table. Also, just a note for beginners, if you're just starting out, don't go to failure. You don't need to. Just focus on learning the exercises. I also find that I rest a lot less between sets. So back when I used to train when I was younger, I used to do a set and then rest for like 2 minutes and then do another set. And it was totally different than the way I train now. So right now I'm training much more quickly, not quickly in terms of the movements, but less rest between the sets. So probably a minute at the most. On the compound movements, the bigger movements, the squats, the bench press, those kind of things, I will take a little longer time. But I really do cycle through a lot of these exercises much faster, get the blood flowing, get really good pumps in all my muscles. Additionally, the other thing that I do is I superset a lot. So the supersetting where you're doing 2 exercises back to back without a rest, cycling a lot of those exercises together allows me to keep the pace of my workouts much faster and just get out of the gym sooner. Also, I do want to mention that supersets are not something that you should be doing initially when you're just starting out. It's more of an advanced technique. So again, focus on just sticking with learning the movements properly if you're just beginning. And my workouts take less time. Primarily, I'm doing less sets. When I was younger, I was training for bodybuilding competitions and now I'm working the muscles, but less sets per body part. So I'm not in the gym as long. I'm not rushing by any means. I'm working out my muscles very thoroughly and I would say very efficiently. And the objective is to just get the maximum benefit I can in a shorter duration of time. And that's really the way I kind of trained back then. But as I'm older, I'm doing a little less. I'm old. I mean, come on. Lastly, and most importantly, deal with your injuries and your health issues. As we get older, we're gonna have stuff that happens. We will get injured, we'll have health issues, and as inconvenient as they do happen. And the important thing is not to ignore them. So if you have something going on, make sure you're getting it checked. Go to a doctor, get the tests that you need to get, do the physical therapy. I know it's an inconvenience and it takes you off the path of your training and your working out. But the reality is this is a part of life of being older. The problem is as we get older, we don't bounce back as quickly as we used to. So unfortunately, you got to take a little more time and make sure that those injuries are taken care of. If you need time to heal, let it heal. If there's stuff you can do and your doctor allows it, great. But you need to be smart about that and not push yourself. Respect the healing process and respect the time it takes for your body to get back on track, and just accept it as a part of what happens when you're older. So these are the ways that my workouts have changed or not changed over the years. And these are not things that just happened all at once. They were things that kind of happened over time. So you might find that as you age and as you get older, you're going to have to start making adjustments like this. If you like this video and you found it was helpful, hit the like button, subscribe, stay strong, stay active, and I'll see you in the next video.